Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit about how to select a broker. So when I say five things I really think an employer has to learn when picking their broker, by the word learn, what I really mean is uncover, discern, gather. It's in other words, yeah, this is a list we hope to learn from, but really what you're trying to extract when you're interviewing brokers, that's what I want to focus on. In my career, 22 and a half, going on 23 years now, as an attorney, as a benefits consultant, as a professor, I've had the opportunity to assist employers in the selection process, both as a teacher, as an attorney, working on a kind of on the other side. And then, of course, we've had clients select us and not select us both over the years. So what I've been able to uncover is really what I think the five most important things, and I think they're the five most underrated things too, because I'm assuming you're doing all the other stuff, right? You're interviewing your consultant. You're making sure that they understand your business, they understand the kind of plans you want to achieve, they understand their craft, right? I'm assuming you've done that. I'm assuming you've checked references. I'm assuming you've done the basics. Start from that assumption, and then from there, these are the five things. Like once you've done the basics, these are the most important things that I want to make sure you really understand. And again, I'm just being as truthful as I can, folks. I am sharing and doing things unlike I would have ever done at any other part in my career because I wouldn't have had the leeway to do this in the other parts of my career. So thank you again to the Mahoney Group. You guys are fantastic. I love it. Okay, so moving on. Ownership structure. Ownership structure of the business. That's so important for a brokerage. And again, I've got some memes here to make this fun because if we can't laugh when we're doing this, if we can't laugh at work, if we can't laugh when we're learning, what can we do, right? So obviously, you've seen if you've seen any of my content, if you've read my stuff, you know I am pretty critical of private equity. I poke fun at private equity for good reason. I mean, if in all seriousness, I mean you can there's a plenty of great material online on LinkedIn about just what private equity does to healthcare and at every level, doctors' offices, hospitals, pharmacy benefit managers, and of course, insurance brokers. It's not just private equity, though. Wall Street owned or bank owned entities as well. Anything where the impetus is on rapid growth, right? And that becomes a huge deal. So if we take just, for example, look at a large Wall Street brokerage, something has happened in our economy since the 70s. If you were to go back pre-1970s, a business's number one focus was always its customers. And as we as a country started outsourcing more and more of our products to overseas, to China mainly, we really moved more to this large sort of Wall Street model where the number one focus for a business became the shareholder and not the customer. And that momentum has carried through to the point where, again, if you are a publicly traded company, you have a fiduciary obligation. There's that word again. You have a fiduciary obligation to maximize profit. And specifically, if you're in leadership, one of those large traded companies, you've got like a couple quarters to do it. I mean, they don't mess around. We don't do 3 to 5 year plans in Wall Street. We want to know profitability next quarter and the quarter after that. It is incredibly high pressure. So again, just think about that. If you're hiring an insurance brokerage, do you want one that has to have maximum profitability next quarter? They're not thinking 5 years out. Their fiduciary obligation is to maximize their profit to their shareholders, not to watch your bottom line, right? So it's again, private equity, very similar, different in that it's not a Wall Street ownership situation typically. Private equity typically comes in, buys a cash cow, and then strips it down. We hear the term strip and flip a lot of times, strips it down as lean as possible, right? I mean, there is a positive with what we call creative destruction. But with private equity, again, the focus is I'm going to sell this business in 1 to 2 years. So what I need to do is I need to cut all the fat out. Now, again, that might be good, right? You might have a fat business that needs some trimming. But if it's an insurance brokerage, if it's a service industry type of business, what you're getting is, I'm going to cut out all the extra service teams. I'm going to cut out all the extra R&D and the tech support that we've invested in. I'm going to cut out everybody who's not operating at effectively 150% capacity, because what I need to do is I need to make our profits look as big as possible per employee and as big as possible compared to our payroll in the short term so that we can flip this thing for the highest possible price. So again, very careful with private equity, very careful with publicly traded. Again, privately held, great. Usually you get a different sort of mindset. You get a 3 to 5 to 6 year growth mindset in a privately held entity. Even better, an employee-owned entity becomes a very different focus. And there are a couple of them out there. One of them happens to be the old, not Nike, the Mahoney Group. There you go. One of them happens to be the Mahoney Group. There's only two, maybe three brokerages I'm aware of that are employee-owned. It's a fantastic way to do things. But look, point being, ownership matters. You might have the greatest consultant, broker, whoever, ever, right? But the ownership structure puts incredible impetus on cost cutting and growth. And a lot of times that cost cutting and growth is going to mean subtle, but messaging at the highest levels about how we prefer carrier A, B, and C, because those might be the carriers where we as an organization get overrides. Overrides are additional payments made to the brokerage for selling their product, right? So if the insurance company is Purple Cross, you might get an extra 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% from Purple Cross for the volume of business you put with them that isn't reported on your 5,500 employer. So again, you're not paying the extra for that directly, but you might have an entity that is crafting messaging in such a way that your broker or agent doesn't even really know that Purple Cross isn't the best fit for you, because they're getting education from the carrier community and from their ownership teams about how the service is so much better, the financial stability is so much better, the problem solving is so much better. And so they might steer you toward a carrier that maybe isn't the best option for you based upon price, because of the overall culture and the impetus for the organization to maximize its revenue. Now, again, if they're publicly traded, they have a fiduciary obligation to do that. If they're private equity, they're just going to do it. So again, ownership matters. It really, really does. So I can't understate that one. But that's number 5. I'm going to count down to what I think is the most important. Okay, so when we get to the next one, does your brokerage, your consultancy, your agency, your advisors, your whisperers, again, whatever we're going to call them, do they work in large group? Do they work in small group, or both? Right? And are you a large or a small group, or both? So in most states, I think all but California, 50 is the cutoff. So if you have 50 or more on the plan, or I think it's actually 51 or more on the plan, you're a large group. In California, it's 100. So in California, you have to have 101 employees on your plan to be large group. Large group is totally different than small group. Large group, the cases are individually underwritten, they're negotiated. Claims data is taken into account. The larger you are, the more it is taken into account. In small group, it's transactional. It's quick. It's just boom, boom, boom. Everything is canned, right? So all of the rates are filed with the state in small group, and your premium as an employer is literally just a computer click away. I upload your census with your zip codes and your ages for all of your employees and their dependents, run it through the computer, and then it spits back premiums for all of the different carriers, all the different plans. It's really just a big tech data thing. There's no negotiation. There's some consultation, obviously, because you got to pick which plans and so forth, but it's an entirely different world. It's different reps. It's different skill sets for your employees. It's different skill sets for your agents. So like we, for example, Mahoney Group California specifically, we do not touch small group. That is not our game. In fact, if you have 80 employees and you come to me, I'm going to shepherd you over to some very capable small group brokers that really focus in that and do it well. That's not us. We work exclusively on large groups. And for us, that's like 250 to 2,500 employees. Anything bigger than 2,500, of course, we work on, but they get so big and so bureaucratic, typically, not always, that I just don't have the patience for them, frankly. We can impart the best of our skill sets and do the best work for clients that are usually between about 250 to 2,500 employees. So we do chicken and do chicken right. That's just kind of been our mantra forever, doing this as a team at California Mahoney. And that's because in the large group market, I can spend a lot of time with each client. I don't have to have a lot of clients. I can use my law degree, my teaching history, my 23 years of expertise, and I can focus on a very small number of clients and give them a highly, highly customized solution. All of my staff is the same. We are all focused on that. We don't have a lot of clients. We focus in and keep our client base tight. More on that on future slides. And that's okay. There's just different things, right? If you're a small group, you actually don't want me as your broker. You want somebody who has that tech solution, can generate those quotes overnight and spread them out in giant spreadsheets and kind of show you the age-banded rates. It's just a different beast. What's interesting about that is that, like, I have friends, right, who are in other parts of this industry. And so I have a good friend who owns a small group agency. He has 300 clients. I wouldn't even know how to address 300 clients. And personally, for me, what I oversee will never be more than 16 at one time. That's just the way we do things. Our agents, our consultants, our brokers, our advisors, our whisperers. Yeah, we got a lot of names for what we are. I'm just going to use consultant the rest of this video to not get exhausted here. Our consultants, we limit on our team 16. That's it. So you better have large groups, and you better be able to spend a lot of time with each group. It's just a different model. Okay, so you again, do you want a large group broker, a small group broker? Do you want somebody that does both? You almost, frankly, the answer is you almost never want somebody that does both unless you're like at 85 employees and you know you're going to grow to 120 over the next couple of years. Then you might want somebody that does both. But generally, you're going to want somebody that focuses in one lane or the other because these lanes are entirely different with different skill sets. How is your broker paid? Again, a couple of my most favorite memes here. Do they just relentlessly seek to sling insurance? Do they have like 300 clients worth, right? Are they just slinging insurance left and right, just wheeling and dealing, right? Dishing it out like Steph Curry? Or are they consultative? Do they seek to minimize the amount of insurance you buy? Again, that's one of our tricks, right? Is if people ask me what I do, I don't say I'm an insurance agent. I say my job is to minimize the damage insurance does to you by showing you how to buy as little insurance as possible and how to self-fund as much of your plan as you can, because that's the way you get out of this rat race. Anyway, so is your broker paid by PBMs, which we know a lot of them are? You take that top list, that top 10 list on the business insurance list of the top insurance agencies, and my assumption is that a lot of those brokerages are getting kickbacks from the PBMs. And that's why we see these lawsuits now. Wells Fargo, Johnson & Johnson. Thank you very much. And if you didn't see that, my last post, Substack, large article on that. All right. Really, though, broker pay. What's so important that you got to learn about this is, how is your broker paid? Specifically, your consultant, your agent. Because the way the system is set up, the way the industry works, your consultant is typically the top of the food chain that's going to work on your account. You're going to typically have a consultant, an account executive, and then you may have an account manager and an account coordinator underneath that. You usually have a 3 or 4 person team. You may have a COBRA person, but you're going to have a team of people that work on your account employer. The top of that team, as far as insurance acumen, financial management acumen, should be your consultant. How is that person paid? Because here's the problem, especially with private equity and Wall Street. What we have seen increasingly is the broker gets paid 40% of the commission year one, and then like 25% of the commission for every other year. So the messaging to the broker is, go sell a new case and then move on and sell another one. Don't spend a ton of time with your existing accounts because you're only going to get really that high payment on the first year. Now, this is pretty uniform now. When I started in the industry 23 years ago now, it was you typically would get 35% flat or 30% flat or maybe even 40% flat, meaning if you got a new client as the agent consultant, you would get 35% of the commission year one, 35% year two, 35% year three. So you were never incentivized to walk away from a client. You were never incentivized to go sell instead of sit on a book. Private equity and Wall Street have changed that overwhelmingly. And I mean overwhelmingly, because we've interviewed brokers from every major house, and they've all gone to like 40-25 or 40-20. And again, the second number is how much you get paid on renewals, or 45-20 or 50-20. It's in 40-30 is another common one. It's incredibly rare for your agent, for your consultant, to get paid a flat amount, or at least a reasonable amount. You want that consultant to be paid more than 30% on renewals. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for whatever the first year is, fine, but you want that consultant to make more than, because once you start paying a consultant in the 20s for a renewal, that consultant is told, go sell something else. Don't stay here. I had a case, a client we took over, it was about a year and a half ago, and a big house, again, giant house, one of the top 3-4 brokerages in the country. And the broker was doing nothing. And then I just learned from a buddy who interviewed there, yeah, they pay 50-20. They pay 50% on first year, 20% on renewal. So this consultant didn't give a rip. I mean, didn't give a rip is a lean statement, but the financial economics at play here was such that he was told, go sell something new. Don't sit on enforced business. Like, we've got paid staff to do that, right? Which is the messaging at a lot of these houses. Trust me, I know. I've been doing this forever, and I'm spilling to you exactly what's going on behind the scenes. So you got, just ask if your broker is good, again, I call them brokers because it's so common. Consultant is good, interchangeable, okay? Broker and consultant are interchangeable. If they're good, they're going to tell you, I get paid this in year one, this in year two, and this every year on renewal. They're going to tell you. They will. If they don't tell you, they're not for you. They're not going to be, if they're not going to be honest and forthright about that, how are they going to disclose whether or not they're actually getting PBM kickbacks on the back end, right? And what we're seeing is, a lot of times they don't disclose it, hence these massive lawsuits we're seeing left and right. So you want to know how that broker is paid. It's important, especially if they're the top of the food chain, right? How many accounts is the account executive liable for? Like, how many do they oversee? Again, we've interviewed people from these big houses, 50, 100, 150 accounts. That's insane. Now, if it's small group, if it's a bunch of 20 life groups, and you've got one account manager that oversees 75, 100 clients, that's doable because you're not getting a lot of personal support. It's a lot of tech. It's a lot of churn and burn. It's a lot of repetitive motion stuff. Totally different beast. In my world, where we're working on 700 to 1,000 lifers, most typically, we limit our account executives, and again, account executive in our world it goes consultant or advisor, whatever you want to call us, account executive, account manager, account coordinator. So, and we have different names, account coordinator, we have insurance specialist, we have different grades of all that, but don't get too confused. Our account executives are limited to 8. 8. I don't want my AEs to have more than 8, because 8, they can spend a lot of time and a lot of energy with each client, and they can do a really good job. And again, if I'm only working on 500 life groups, we can do that, and we can do it really well. Hyper specialization. You want to know how many clients each AE has, because man, once you get up into 50, 75, it's churn and burn, especially now. Remember, your broker's only making 20% on renewal. The AE has 37 clients. You are in trouble town, folks. And I'm here to tell you, that's how most of those big houses work. It is. It just is. It's why I don't work there anymore. It's why I had to find something different, because the skill sets of my team are very different. We just couldn't do that. We have a lot of really highly skilled people with a ton of education and a ton of expertise in human resources, underwriting, actuarial work, and law. And we spend a lot of time with each client. So we just can't work on 37 employee groups. Okay, service team pay. It's one of my favorite all-time memes. My account executives meme. All right, so how does this meme even relate? Well, my account executives are the best I've ever seen in the industry, the salt of the earth. And I even have a hard time talking about them without getting choked up, because I basically was able to handpick a group of them to come with me after I left. And they all did. Every one of them. Every one of them that I asked said yes. And I'm so blessed for that. And I will forever be indebted to them for it, because they are the best ever. They all have some form of either HR. Two of them are big HR backgrounds. Three of them actually are big HR backgrounds. And then the other person has just a servant heart with a large, large history in account management, account executive roles, and managing other people. But they're so good, and they're paid so well that they know when to tell me to shut up, right? I have no problem with that. I want highly paid, highly skilled people touching my clients every day. I am totally willing to give up pay to them. A lot of consultants aren't. It's what I do. It's what Dave, my brother, does as well. It's just how we do things in California. We give up pay to have incredibly talented people working on our clients. And that's what we just don't lose groups for that reason. I mean, we just don't. So service team pay. There's a couple different ways to do this. I've done it multiple ways in my career, but I'm going to share some statistics with you that blew my mind. Okay. So I was actually speaking to a friend of mine, a colleague who I'm working on a project with, a contract, separate project to work on an account together. And he is somebody who's been through it all. I mean, he's moving into retirement. He's worked at a few different really well-known brokerages, and he's a super sophisticated guy. And he's just to the point in his career where he's like, man, I can't be an employee anymore. I got to go do my own thing. And so I always love picking the brain of people when we have these types of situations and asking them, hey, what was it like working at X or Y or Z? And so he starts telling me a story about when he worked at X. And X is, again, a top 10 insurance agency in our world, very well known. And I actually know them quite well, because when we used to joke that they had shaming rooms and shaming meetings, because we would get resumes from them so often in my current job and in my last job. And these, accomplished consultants would come to us and say, yeah, I have a $2 million block of business that I manage. I've been in the industry for 25 years, and I have to go into these meetings every week or two and get shamed because I haven't made 100 cold calls a day or whatever, 50 a day, whatever their metric was. Because again, it was private equity, and it was like, grow, 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 grow. So this particular entity, I was speaking to my friend, and he happened to have worked there too. And I said, hey, what was it like working there? I heard about the shaming meetings and the shaming rooms. And he said, oh yeah, no, that's real. That's real. That's why you don't see agents last there very long, because it's grow, 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 and move on. And he said, Craig, they pay the service staff 12% of commission. That's it. Not 13, 12. And so again, peeling the layers back so you guys understand what I'm talking about. If you have a block of business, let's say it's $1 million, right? That's pretty light. I mean, say it's $2 million. So you have one consultant managing $2 million of revenue coming in, right? Commissions, fees, combination of revenues of, fees, commissions, etc. That means that you can pay the staff that manages that $2 million 12%. So $240,000 in that example for all of the staff, right? That would be the account executive, the account manager, well, there is no account coordinator. There is no COBRA specialist, right? Because now you've got, that might be 15 clients, right? That $2 million might be 15 clients. And now I've only got 240,000 to pay the people to manage that. That's insane. That's the lowest number I've heard in my career. Very typically it's 18%, maybe up to 20%. Again, meaning block of business, $2 million, 18%, 180,000 or 360,000 of that goes to paying the account executive, the account manager, the account coordinator, the COBRA specialist, paying them to manage the account, okay? Well, again, what might make it different if you're a large group specialist like I am, we regularly pay 24% to the staff. Now, when we made this transition that we recently made, we've done some metrics, and because we wanted the very best staff we could have, and we wanted to staff up, we wanted to have capacity, we're well over 30% right now. Again, that is unheard of in the industry, and I just want you to be thinking about how are your, as the account staff, paid, because that broker is almost certainly paid in such a way that once he gets your business, the second year, you're going to get much less of his time. It's just economic realities. So now you better have really good account executives to take care of you. How are they paid? So one way you can do this is you can just take an account executive and you can say, you will be paid 10% of the book you manage. So if an account executive can manage a $2 million book, which could happen, they get paid $200,000 a year. Boom. That's a way I've done it a lot of times in my career. Now, I'm doing it a little differently this time around, because what happens in that world is if you have a large client and lose it, your account executive really takes a financial hit, which I love. I love skin in the game. I want to make it so that every member on my team has skin in the game. And that's how we get our service levels through the roof, because I want to make it so that every client we win, every client we lose is money in your pocket. It matters to you. It matters. Are you going to take your client's call at 8 o'clock at night if need be? Heck yeah, because it matters to your pocketbook, right? So a simple way to do it is to, at least with your account executive staff, pay them 10% of the book they manage. It's a really good way to do it. Now, I've actually gone above and beyond that in the recent iteration of what we're doing, but I highly encourage that you pay the executives well, the account management staff well, and then you have an incentive structure where they get bonused up, because that is where you just leverage in that next bit of they care so much, right? All right, I blathered on a lot, folks, but those are the topics. Can I rip through them again real quick? You want to know about the ownership of this brokerage? It's important. You want to know whether the broker does large or small or both. Again, both would only be relevant if you're just going to be crossing from one to the next. You want to know how your broker is compensated year one, year two. You want to know how many groups each account executive manages, and you want to get a basic understanding of the pay of that account executive. Thank you so much for your time again today, folks. I appreciate it. I hope to see you sometime before the next renewal.